Chapter 7. Some Silhouettes of This Darkness by Victor Hugo from the book Les Misérables. During the 6 years which separate 1819 fro, the prioress of the Petit Picpus was Mademoiselle de Blameur, whose name, in religion, was Mother Innocent. She came of the family of Marguerite de Blameur, author of Lives of the Saints of the Order of Saint Benoit. She had been re-elected. She was a woman about 60 years of age, short, thick, singing like a cracked pot, says the letter which we have already quoted. An excellent woman, moreover, and the only merry one in the whole convent, and for that reason adored. She was learned, erudite, wise, competent, curiously proficient in history, crammed with Latin, stuffed with Greek, full of Hebrew, and more of a Benedictine monk than a Benedictine nun. The sub-prioress was an old Spanish nun, Mother Sinners, who was almost blind. The most esteemed among the vocal mothers were Mother Saint Honorine, the treasurer, Mother Saint Gertrude, the chief mistress of the novices, Mother Saint Ange, the assistant mistress, Mother Annunciation, the sacristan, Mother Saint Augustine, the nurse, the only one. The convent who was malicious. Then Mother Saint Mechtilde, Mademoiselle Gauvain, very young and with a beautiful voice, Mother des Anges, Mademoiselle Drouet, who had been in the convent of the Filsdia, and in the convent du Tracer between Geyzers and Magny, Mother Saint Joseph, Mademoiselle de Cogaludo, Mother Saint Adelaide, Mademoiselle d'Auvergne, Mother Miséricorde, Mademoiselle de Cifuentes, who could not resist austerities, Mother Compassion, Mademoiselle de la Miltière, received at the age of 60 in defiance of the rule, and, very wealthy, Mother Providence, Mademoiselle de Laudonnière, Mother Presentation, Mademoiselle de Sigenza, who was prioress in 1847, and finally Mother Saint Celine, sister of the sculptor Siraki, who went mad, Mother Saint Chantal, Mademoiselle de Suzanne, who went mad. There was also, among the prettiest of them, a charming girl of 23, who was from the Isle de Bourbon, a descendant of the Chevalier Rose, whose name had been Mademoiselle Rose, and who was called Mother Assumption. Mother Saint Mechtilde, entrusted with the singing and the choir, was fond of making use of the pupils in this quarter. She usually took a complete scale of them, that is to say, 7, from 10 to 16 years of age, inclusive of assorted voices and sizes, whom she made sing standing, drawn up in a line, side by side, according to age from the smallest to the largest. This presented to the eye something in the nature of a reed pipe of young girls, a sort of living panpipe made of angels. Those of the lay sisters whom the scholars loved most were Sister Euphrasie, Sister Saint Marguerite, Sister Saint Marthe, who was in her dotage, and Sister Saint Mitchell, whose long nose made them laugh. All these women were gentle with the children. The nuns were severe only towards themselves. No fire was lighted except in the school, and the food was choice compared to that in the convent. Moreover, they lavished 1,000 cares on their scholars. Only, when a child passed near a nun and addressed her, the nun never replied. This rule of silence had had this effect, that throughout the whole convent, speech had been withdrawn from human creatures and bestowed on inanimate objects. Now it was the church bell which spoke, now it was the gardener's bell, a very sonorous bell, placed beside the portress, and which was audible throughout the house, indicated by its varied peals, which formed a sort of acoustic telegraph, all the actions of material life which were to be performed, and summoned to the parlor, in case of need, such or such an inhabitant of the house. Each person and each thing had its own peal. The prioress had 1 and 1, the sub-prioress 1 and 2. 6-5 announced lessons, so that the pupils never said to go to lessons, but to go to 6-5. 4-4 was Madame de Genlis's signal. It was very often heard. 100 est le diable équator. It's the very deuce, said the uncharitable. 10 strokes announced a great event. It was the opening of the door of seclusion, a frightful sheet of iron bristling with bolts which only turned on its hinges in the presence of the archbishop. With the exception of the archbishop and the gardener, no man entered the convent, as we have already said. The schoolgirls saw 2 others. One, the chaplain, the Abbé Banez, old and ugly, whom they were permitted to contemplate in the choir, through a grating. The other, the drawing master, M. Anciox, whom the letter, of which we have perused a few lines, calls M. Anciot and describes as a frightful old hunchback. It will be seen that all these men were carefully chosen. Such was this curious house,